Hello, and welcome to the Disability Myth. My name is Dominic, and I live with a fatal disease called spinal muscular atrophy. Together, my amazing caretaker, co host, and best friend, Uriel, and I plan to debunk misconceptions, share our personal experiences, and shatter your expectations. But we're not stopping there. We're bringing in experts, thought leaders, and everyday people who are smashing through societal barriers, paving the way for a more inclusive world. Whether you're tuning in to learn, empathize, or simply to be entertained, the show promises to be an eye opening experience that transcends boundaries. Because when it comes down to it, what makes us different is what makes us extraordinary. Well, hello, and
Hi.
welcome to episode 1
Episode 1.
of the Disability Myth.
Yeah.
I am your humble, handsome host, Dominic
Mm-hmm.
Trevathan, and alongside me is the equally handsome and humble Uriel. What's up, man?
Yes, me. Not much.
What do you want to tell the crowd tonight?
Episode 1. It's really exciting. Today, weather's wacky.
It's really hot.
Yeah, and then it gets a little chilly at night. I don't know. It's been going back and forth between humid,
Yeah.
cold. I guess it's just where we live. Just Santa Barbara County for you.
Santa Barbara County.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, episode 1 of the disability myth.
Yeah.
What?
How do you want to start this? Should
I
we
don't
just
know.
introduce ourselves?
Yeah, I mean,
Talk about
humble,
ourselves?
handsome, hammy host,
Oh yeah.
co-host me.
Oh yeah.
Um, maybe we'll start off with why that title.
Why the disability myth? That's a good question, man.
Yeah.
It's been my observation that a lot of people who have not been disabled before or don't know anyone personally with the disability have a lot of assumptions, stereotypes, natural kind of judgments about people with disabilities. And that's to be expected. We can't be expected to recognize and analyze all the aspects in every person, event, or situation we encounter in a day, right? We don't have the energy for it. And so we have to kind of use our stereotypes, our rules of thumb to classify things according to a few key identifiers. And so when it comes to disability, people will see when you think of disability, what do you think of?
I think most people associate it with like something negative or traumatizing, like something has either happened in that individual's life that led them into that wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
I know in your case it's different. It's not a spinal injury, but it was something you're born with
Right.
SMA.
Yeah, we'll touch on that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for me
Or
personally,
CP.
cerebral palsy, yeah,
Right.
that's
Is
another
that,
one.
yeah, cerebral? Oh, yeah.
That's like a birth defect usually. Um, at least that's my understanding of it. Correct me if I'm wrong, my fellow CP peeps. Try saying that 3 times fast.
CPP. Oh my
CP
god.
peeps,
Oh
CP
gosh. A
peeps,
lot of
CP peeps.
sounds like
Um,
PP.
anyways, so when I think of a disability, I think of a wheelchair, I think of a cane, some type of mobility device. So even though, I myself, uh, I don't like those assumptions, I make them myself, right? I'm guilty of it too. And that's why I really wanted to focus on the idea of our stereotypes, our associations between, disability and the people behind them, including myself, right?
Hmm.
So I wanted to destigmatize those associations, really break them down, talk about them in an open format with someone else, right, that is familiar with someone with a disability. And that way, hopefully, we can kind of break these issues down together and demystify them as you would like a myth, right? It's there's so many myths about people with disabilities that, we don't go to work, we live very sad, depressing lives. We don't date, we don't go out, we
That's
don't
not. That's
have
not true.
relationships. It's
Yeah.
it's not the truth. It's so far
Right.
from the truth. Yeah, it's so easy to fall into those pitfalls where you just assume that.
Well, it goes back to like what you say, where it's we like. just a very human thing
Right.
that humanity does, where we spend our lives comparing things on what came before.
Hmm. And I
Right.
have a bachelor's of science in communication. Not that I'm qualified to like teach it or anything, but
I
what
think
I
that's
was
like the minimum requirement for high school education, I think.
oh, that's true, that's true.
Right? You can teach that at high school.
What I was taught is that people grow up being taught by their culture that they grew up in. And if that culture that you grew up in tells you to make those assumptions about people, then you're going to, right? And this applies to not just disability, but people in general. We see a skin color, we see a disability or a mobility aid, we see someone with like very obtrusive hair color, like pink or something, or out there, right?
Right.
And we're like, oh, they're weird. Like, why the hell is their like hair pink, right? I
Yeah, I was mostly thinking about like the association thing, but like it's like a culture where it's like if you grew up not knowing any single disabled people and you've only ever known abled people all your life, all of a sudden you're putting like what you think is normal
Yeah,
onto like that person.
yeah. I have kind of a little story that actually ties perfectly into that. Um, when I was 5, 6 years old, I think I started going to the junior wheelchair sports camp at UCSB. It's held every year at UCSB by Cottage Rehabilitation Hospital.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, here in Santa Barbara. And so, um, it's for kids of all disability ranges, chair, canes, um, all kids with different ranges of mobility, right? And it teaches them how to adapt and play sports.
That's
And
cool.
it's really cool because it's a way that kids can become comfortable in their skin and experience other disabilities, other kids that are similar to them.
Right.
So the first time I went to sports camp scared the hell out of me because I was so used to going to regular school. I was in regular classes, hanging out with regular able-bodied people, quote unquote regular. I gotta stop saying that. um, um, so when I went to sports camp, it was a culture shock,
Right.
right? Because I've only ever been around able-bodied people up until that point, really. And when I went to sports camp, boom, there's like 40 other kids in wheelchairs around me, and it was a lot to take in, right? I'm like, oh wow, like I'm not the only one here.
Right.
Um, and it was a lot for me to take in at first. I was really scared. I didn't want to talk to anybody. Like I was kind of isolating myself, and the counselors who are also in wheelchairs, they really had to work to bring me out of that, kind of self isolation because of that culture shock.
Right. I mean, yeah, that like, whole mentality. Because again, like you've always associated like mobility with what you saw and things around you. That once you went to the sports camp with all these kids, it's like okay,
Yep.
like complete, all right,
Yeah, it's a
redefined.
complete 180.
Right.
And so that's another kind of I think backbone of this podcast. Um I want to provide a space for people with disabilities to kind of share their experiences, right? Like the
Right.
one I just shared with you. So I really want to kind of bridge the gap between the disabled experience and the not so disabled experience. And that's why I think you were a really good person to bring on here as my co-host because
I just look freaky.
you're just a freak. Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
I look like a naked mole rat.
Yeah. My friend here, he has Noonan's syndrome,
Yeah.
and so he, as you said, looks like a naked mole rat.
Yeah.
Think of the one from Kim Possible, right?
Doo, 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 doo.
So yeah, the broad shoulders, the webbed neck,
Yeah, a little some
barreled.
physical features, some
Right.
physical differences.
So when you see my friend here, he physically looks different. right?
Right.
Like I physically look different.
Almost like a seal, almost. You're laughing because it's true.
No, I was just thinking of or
Oh, it seals. Yeah,
yeah.
funny
Um
noises.
yeah. So, not only that, you have that experience as growing up differently from everybody else. But you've been my best friend since, what, 2014, 15 we met
High school, yeah.
in high school.
I think
Um
junior year. I don't know. I forget when.
I think we started talking like sophomore year and really hanging out more
I
like
think what happened is
junior
because you
year,
showed up like towards the end of sophomore year.
freshman year.
Oh shoot, brother! Like, dang.
Yeah. Yeah, so we kind of got to know each other. He one of the first interactions I remember
Uh-oh.
is he came up to me in at the start of this class I was in, multimedia,
Yeah.
and we had some mutual friends I was sitting with, and he just comes up to our table, even though it's not his class that he's in, and sits
I
down next to
remember.
me. He puts his hand on my leg.
Yeah.
He's like, "Can you feel it?"
Yeah.
That's like the first words that comes out of this man's mouth. I'm like,
I was
"Yeah, but like,
curious.
yeah, dude, but like, take me out to dinner first."
Oh yeah, I
Like, damn.
remember. I remember the context too. It's because I was in I think the context was I was in a class.
Mhm.
I was in that weird half government, half politics, like politic government poli sci course that
Okay.
community college would hold. And because those classes only meet Tuesday, Thursdays, I believe, I would have off periods on Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Mm,
So I would just have no class and I would get to leave like at like sixth period.
yeah.
So no, I'd have a fifth period, but no, like I'd like get out basically at like 12. So I would just like walk in and like crash the party.
And then the teacher would get all mad.
She didn't get mad at first. I don't think she noticed me
Mm,
because you guys were like working and she was at her desk or
mm-hmm.
whatever.
Yeah. So that's how we met. And we've talked about this before. The first time I met him versus the first time like he kind of saw me. And so one time I asked him like, "What would you have any remember specific thoughts of what you thought when you first saw me?"
Me?
Yeah.
I hadn't I didn't have any strong thoughts.
Yeah.
I was like, whatever, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's
Said
kind of
hi.
I think that's kind of why I really appreciate you as a person in my life because one of the things that I get hung up on most in my interactions with new people is they point out my wheelchair or something like, "Oh, I like your wheelchair." Whereas, you're just like, "Oh,
Straight to
I
second
guess."
base.
Straight to second
Yeah,
base.
it's like
Yeah, exactly.
oh
Don't take
gosh.
that literally, audience.
Ah.
Um, yeah, so, you know, a good example of that. Back in 2017, I went to Walmart to buy some school supplies. Yeah, I was getting ready to go back to UCLA for my second year. Back then, I was a psych major, pre-psych major to be specific. Yep. And so I was getting ready to go back to school in the fall, doing some back to school shopping. This woman comes up from behind me. She's like, "Oh, like I said earlier, hey, I like your wheelchair." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. Like, thanks. Like, thank you." I took it as a compliment. Um, and so then she started talking to me about her her grandson who lived with a disability, you know, segued from my chair to his chair and his disability. And we were talking. It was cool. And then she kind of brought up something that I won't lie, it bothered me. She said, "Oh, is that your backpack from that UCLA backpack you're wearing? Who do you see there? Like a doctor? My grandson sees so and so." And so yeah, like I've said, I won't lie, it kind of triggered me.
A
um,
little bit.
because I wasn't seeing a doctor there at the time. I was just a student there, like I mentioned earlier. And I think that's a really good example of the way that those stereotypes, those assumptions we make about people come up in just everyday conversations, right?
Right.
And I'm not the one to just confront people up front in the moment. I'm a very non confrontational person. But that being said, at the same time, I want people to recognize me for the person I am, not the physical circumstances that I live with, right?
Right.
I am,
So
as I like to say, an individual living with a disability, not a disabled individual.
okay. Now let's take this a little step further.
A step? Whoa.
Hey.
Whoa.
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 Um, what do you think? Do you think she would have approached you if you weren't in a wheelchair and you just had a backpack on that said UCLA on it?
Yeah, that's a good question because
Right? Because
the
like
reason
she
she started
associated because
talking
of
to
the
me,
wheelchair.
yeah, it was the wheelchair. But then, she segued into her grandson
Right.
talking about his doctors off of my UCLA backpack. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you're listening to this, I believe I have her on Instagram, and I don't want to name drop her or anything because again, I don't.
Oh, I didn't know you followed her.
Yeah, she follows me. Um, we don't talk a whole lot, but I did add her or I gave her my Instagram or whatever, Facebook, and so that's the other thing. I don't like situations like that. They make me uncomfortable because, like I said, I feel torn between not wanting to be confrontational and being respectful and thanking her for the genuine compliment
Right.
of liking my chair.
Hmm.
But the other side of that being, I want to be known for more than my chair, right? Or recognized for other aspects than my chair. Um,
I feel like I feel like you got a little bit offended because again, it's you want to be more than just your chair, and like she sees the chair
exactly.
immediately like, oh, not college student or like anything associated, just
Right.
like just medical, what
Yeah.
you stated, and like
Yeah.
they kind of rubbed you off the wrong way because it's like because you weren't really seeing medical treatment there at the time, like you said in your story, and it's just
Right.
kind of like shoot.
And so I even told her, like, oh, I don't really see anybody. I'm just a student there. And her jaw dropped and she got all like, whoa, really?
Oh,
And I'm like, oh yeah, like I study psychology. Like I'm going back into my second year. Really excited. And that's the cool part about things like that. It's a blessing and a curse, those situations. Because yes, they're uncomfortable for me, but at the same time, I like to think of them as opportunities to change those stereotypes, right?
to educate.
To educate people. Um, and that's kind of why I think I ended up adding her on socials so she could, if she was so inclined, learn more about my life, how it's not that different from anybody else's.
Right.
Um, and that's kind of another backbone to this podcast is we really want to highlight not only my everyday life, but some of the guests that we're planning to bring
Oh
on as
yeah,
well.
that'd be really fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like I could sit here all day and tell you how Uriel struggles to brush my teeth,
I
but
mean, yeah. It's you gotta get the right angle, man. It's all about the angle.
it's an art form.
It
It's an art
is.
form. Yeah. But yeah, we want to kind of make this exciting and we really want to put some good content out there for all 20 listeners that we have and hopefully gain more and more every episode.
Right. Oh, maybe to avoid confusion, did you mention I was your caretaker?
Right, good call.
Because like, people are like, "Oh,
That's
toothbrush." I'm
that's a
like,
vital
"Yeah."
piece of information.
Oh, yeah. It's like I don't want
Uriel
people to think I just come over and just like shove toothbrushes up your mouth.
I really hope somebody like animates that someday.
Oh no.
Draws that out, illustrates it. Just a man shoving toothbrushes in my mouth. Um yeah, Uriel's my full-time caretaker. One of them. Out of like three right now. Um He's my caretaker through IHSS,
Yep.
and I'd say he works 3 or 4 days a week typically.
Yeah.
It kind of varies depending
It
on how much I
varies.
need him. It's gonna be a lot more now with the podcast thing.
Yeah, but it's all right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun. We have good time together, and
It's my
um
second home.
yeah, you're like family to me. I'm really glad that I have you here to do this with me because
Right.
I hate my own voice. I hate just talking to a computer. I would have done this a long time ago if I didn't. You know,
Yeah.
that's why I love your energy. You that riz, right?
Oh gosh, stop.
Oh gosh.
Gosh. Well, I mean, it makes it easier to like talk to someone or have someone like bounce off of your ideas and stuff instead of like 'cause some people can do a talk show by themselves,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like those talk shows are very organized in the sense where everything's kind of like time managed and all that.
Yeah, and we don't want that for this podcast.
A little
We
bit, but
want
like a
some
little bit,
structure,
some flow,
some
some little.
structure, but we really want our natural kind of chemistry, our friendship to really set the tone for this whole show,
Yeah, this
right?
series.
Yeah. A little bit more about me. I guess I'll get into since I mentioned I have a caretaker. You might be wondering why I have a caretaker. Um, I have lived my whole life with a fatal neuromuscular disease called spinal muscular atrophy, or SMA. And so, for my fellow nerds out there, SMA is a genetic condition. It's caused by a mutation to the SMN gene in our DNA. And this SMN gene, or survival of motor neuron gene, tells our body to produce proteins specifically designed to keep our motor neurons alive and healthy. And so, without that protein, in people living with SMA, our motor neurons die out over time. So people with SMA, like myself, we grow weaker as we grow older. There's things that I could do when I was 5 that I can't even dream of doing nowadays. I used to be able to crawl and move around a lot on my own independently. Um, I didn't get my first wheelchair until I was like 4 or 5 years old, I think. Because up until that point, I could still move pretty independently, crawling around and stuff. But then as I got older, with the lack of that SMN protein, um, my my brain's connection to my muscles via the motor neurons that connect them got weaker,
Mm.
and so that's basically SMA in a nutshell, Uh, and up until the last 7 years or so, there was no treatment for SMA. If you were diagnosed, it was a death sentence, right? Especially if you had like type 1. Type 1s, they typically would pass before they even reached 2 years old. And there's a whole way they classify it based on your number of copies of that gene, SMN gene. The more copies you have, the better off you are. So, like type 1s, I think they only have like one copy of SMN.
Oh wow.
Type 2s, such as myself, we typically have 2 to 3. And then there's type 3s, which have 3 and up usually.
Okay.
And so the more copies you have, the better off you are.
Oh wow.
Yep. Um, but yeah, like I was saying, they came out with the first treatment. I think the FDA approved treatment
Yeah, how does that work?
back
Is
in like
it
2017,
yeah.
16.
I remember you told me something about that. Is it it's an injection, is it? Or is it like a different
Yeah, so the first approved treatment here in the States, I think it was Spinraza or Nusinersen. And so Spinraza, uh, uh, I hope we don't get sued because like it's been Biogen, the company that like puts out Spinraza. They have their whole like marketing setup and everything. Actually, Biogen, if you hear this, you should hire me. That's my plug.
Okay.
Don't sue me. Thank you. Um,
Oh gosh. Episode 1.
so
Already getting
Spinraza,
spicy.
Spinraza is an intrathecal injection. Very fancy, right? Basically means they inject it with the needle into your spinal column, where all your spinal fluid is. And there's a couple different ways they do this now. Fun fact: I was like a trailblazer when it came to these injections because I got the first. I forget what type of port it's called, but it's I think it's called a power port, and it's typically used for people living with cerebral palsy to get their backliven pumped into them, which is I think it's like a medicine that helps counter seizures.
Okay.
Again, my CP peeps out there, correct me if I'm wrong. Um, so I got the power port put in, and I was the first person in the country, according to my doctor, that got the power port put in with the intent of using it for the injections. And so they put it, I had to have the surgery to place it a couple of times.
Right.
The first time didn't work out so well because they placed it in my stomach on my side under my ribs without enough support to keep it in place. When when the doctor would go to inject it into it, it would just move around in my stomach. It's really weird.
Did you ever get it out, or is it still?
Yeah, so they had a second surgery to move it,
Okay.
and they put it against the bottom of my spine.
Right. You should
So
probably
my
tell the audience you have a rod in your spine.
oh yeah, I'm basically Iron Man.
Oh yeah.
I've got titanium rods in my spine from a spinal fusion surgery I had when I was 13. So I have those, and then I have the backliven pump, the power port, next to the bottom of my spine, and that has a catheter that's sewed into my spinal fluid sac, I believe.
Dang.
And that's how I get my injections for Spinraza.
Right.
So they inject into that port. Very fancy needle. I think I think you've actually seen it.
Well, yeah. The doctor showed it to us.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, he injects. Is it just that? Did you get like two things pumped in?
Um, I think he usually flushes it afterwards with um saline
Oh,
or
that's what
like
it might have been.
sodium chloride. It's just like very sterile water.
Yeah.
To help flush out any of the medicine that may be still in the tube in the catheter.
Right.
That way it gets all throughout my system. That's kind of the benefits of intrathecal injections.
Yeah.
Is it spreads throughout your body, throughout your whole limbs, all your limbs, like right away because it's in your spinal fluid sac. That kind of transports throughout your body or something like that. I'm not a doctor. I don't
Right.
know.
But I remember visiting and like we got to see like the setup and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's Spinraza. There's a couple other options now, like Evrysdi
Mhm.
and Zolgensma for babies, typically only, I believe. That's like a one-time injection for life. You don't have to get any other injections.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's very cool. I'm very jelly. I wish I could get that.
Does I don't think it eradicates SMA completely, but it just like significantly improves it, or is it?
Right. So the way these treatments work, I won't get into the science, the bio of it, because I'm not smart enough. But essentially, they trick your DNA into producing a little bit more of that protein.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's basically how they work.
That makes
You
sense.
can there's like a bunch of YouTube videos online you can kind of look up Spinraza how it works, and go from there. But yeah, essentially it tricks your body into producing more of the SMN protein, and it helps by counteracting the progression of the disease. So it's not like a uh, what's the word I want to use?
End all be
It's
all.
not an end all be all. It stops you from getting weaker. Think of like a pool, like a kiddie pool, and it's got a puncture in it, right?
Okay.
So it's leaking out water constantly.
Right.
Spinraza and these treatments out there, they plug up that hole. They don't put more water into the pool, but they plug it up and stop it from leaking out more.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's a cool time to live in, because I have access to these treatments.
Right.
A lot of other people do too.
And they're still kind of experimental, right?
I don't know that they're so
Well,
experimental.
at the
Like
time when you first got your port.
when I first got my port, it had been approved by the FDA, I
Oh,
think,
okay.
for like a year or so.
Wow. So
Um,
literally, like trailblazer, like he's the first.
yeah, that's me. What can I
I think
say?
that's the biggest like first flex ever. You know, people go on like YouTube channels or
Oh
like
yeah,
videos. It's like first. That's like I think that's the biggest flex there is.
oh yeah. You hear that, ladies? Yeah, there you go.
Dude,
Big
that's
flex.
crazy. Yeah.
A little bit more about me on the more casual side of things. I need a lot of help for my daily life to get in and out of bed, go to the bathroom, to get help to eat. And so, that's why I have all these caretakers like Uriel, right?
Right.
There's some days, yeah, and he'll tell you where I wake up and I can't really move my arms that easily.
Yeah. I'd
So
have to.
I'll just have to ask him, like, hey, can you like fling my arms onto my like control?
Yeah. Or like I gotta do little like gentle little mobility stuff.
Yeah, like stretches, range of motion exercises. Yeah,
Like those help, right?
definitely.
Okay. Good.
So, yeah, outside of that kind of stuff, I'm a big football fan.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Well, the tone that you're giving me there is like, ba-da-bum bum bum, ba-da-bum bum,
Oh,
ba-da-bum bum bum bum
I
bum.
forget. I'm sorry. I don't watch football. I forget the NFL like theme.
All right.
Dun dun dun
Note.
dun.
Yeah, note to cue up. Bum 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 bum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we get sued for that?
I hope
I
not.
don't know. It's
Okay,
episode
we'll
one.
just leave the vocal there. No, no, no actual cueing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
episode. Oh my god, I'm already getting stinky with
Or if you want
it.
to think about it like this, CBS Sports, NFL Network, ESPN, hire me. I'll take the job. I love football.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I'm a big 49ers fan. I'm an avid gamer. I play a lot of Madden. I'm excited to hopefully get my hands on the new one coming out. I think it's already out.
Hmm.
So hopefully I'll get it for my birthday or something coming up.
What do they call it? Madden like 2028.
Yeah, it's like Madden
20
2
is like
million.
yeah, it's like I know it's like probably like 25 or 24, right? Madden
24.
24. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm a big Madden guy. I'm probably like the best disabled Madden player out there, to be honest. Just another casual,
Well, it'd be fun.
subtle flex.
So if anybody wants to like refute that,
Come at me.
yeah. I, I don't know if you want to like include your tag or anything.
If you hear this and you wanna get the smoke in Madden,
Get
my
this okay.
my PSN
Whoa.
is Eagle Shadow 1998. Capital
Eagle.
E, capital S. Eagle Shadow 1998. Come at me.
He
Um
gets so much messages now.
oh yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah, I'm a general nerd for all things Star Wars and
Yeah, yeah.
Pokemon. Much like my friend here, right?
I play Pokemon. I played a lot of Pokemon.
Star Wars, you're a fan of Star Wars.
Yeah, I'm like one of those like I don't even know what the word like one of those like coping Star Wars fans. You know, where I don't really like the new trilogy,
Yeah, I don't know many people that do.
and I don't really like the. I like half of the Disney stuff. I mostly stick to like the comic books and like
Yeah,
anything revolving like uh, they call it like Legends or like Legacy or like before the Disney buyout. I
right,
tend
right.
to like levitate towards that stuff.
Yeah, I feel you there.
And then a lot of Magic the Gathering. I like that.
Yep.
Catch me on Fridays getting sweaty.
And you can't forget the Monster Hunter.
Oh yeah, well that's been a recent. Well, I've always been a Monster Hunter fan, like the Capcom game. It's it's always been kind of a niche game. I've always loved it. It's gained more popularity in the West because of their 2018 success with like World. I remember you played that a little bit.
Yeah,
I was like they're like their big, huge like console release, and it sold millions, and like
Yep.
now it's it's got a name for itself going here, so it's kind of cool
Yeah.
seeing more North American players.
Very cool. So yeah, as Uri touched on, I play a lot of different video games like Monster Hunter, Madden, all that
I
stuff.
played the newest Jedi game,
I have played
or sorry,
the
Star Wars.
latest
Yeah,
Jedi Survivor game.
right.
Um, I have beaten what's his name? Ogdo Bogdo. I think
Oh yeah, I
the the
mean,
the frog boss.
yeah, he was.
I've beaten the challenge where you have to fight both of them,
This is the nutty boss,
the Ogdo Bogdo and Spawn of Ogdo Bogdo.
right?
So again, come at you, boy. Despite my crippling addiction to video games and fictional creatures, as I said earlier, do have a bachelor's degree of science in communications from Arizona State University.
But wait, that's not UCLA.
Oh yeah, you're right. I gotta
Yeah,
clean up the
people are gonna
timeline.
wonder.
The
Yeah.
timeline, yeah.
Oh,
I studied at UCLA for 2 years, 2016 through 18,
right.
and we'll probably save this for another episode, the bulk of it. But I ended up moving back home as a result of nursing care issues, and I transferred to Allen Hancock Community College, where I changed my major as well to communication. Got my AA there in communication and in the arts and humanities. And then I transferred to Arizona State University online, where I got my bachelor's.
Ooh,
Like
congratulations! Like
literally
a
a
few
few
months
weeks
ago.
ago. Yeah. I actually am technically still not graduated. Like
Oh,
I'm still waiting for it to show up on my ASU profile,
right.
but it's happening, I swear.
Cool.
Yeah.
Can you access your ASU profile like months or like years past once you've graduated?
I think I can, yeah.
That's
It's just
wacky.
I think you lose access to certain softwares and programs like OneDrive and whatnot.
You would think they would just like,
I think it says online. You're not supposed to like access them. I don't know if you can't, but yeah, I remember reading online.
okay.
You're not supposed to.
Because I've always wondered about that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so that's kind of my general intro. If you have any questions, leave them in the reviews. Add me on social media. We have the new
Page.
page
Yeah.
up on Instagram at the Disability Myth, all
It's
one word.
and it's us looking like chicken
You'll
nuggets.
see us looking like a couple of hungry T-Rex boys.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Flopping around.
yeah. So just having a good time, and we really hope that you can have a good time with us.
I hope so.
Yeah. So let us know what you think in the reviews. Give us 5 out of 5 stars if you liked it. If you didn't, don't say anything.
Leave a
Um,
blank.
yeah, just leave it blank. You'll come to see that I love people asking me questions, kind of to tie back into the Walmart story. Even though I may not like all the interactions I have with new people, I encourage them because, as I touched on earlier, there are opportunities for us to engage in communication
A little bit of growth.
and, yeah, increase our understanding of one another. And that's the point of the podcast. Um, not everything is as you. What was I trying to say? Not
Mm.
everything is as it
As it
seems.
seems,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So yeah, I hope that by giving you guys a look into my mind, I can shed some light on the disabled experience and really illustrate the idea that we're not so different. Um, Individuals living with disabilities, we're just like anybody else in the sense that we have hopes and dreams and we make mistakes, and at the end of the day, we're all human. So,
Amen, bro.
yeah, if you liked what we had to say today, please consider leaving a like, sharing with friends, and demystifying with others. And also, before I forget, make sure to give my buddy or pal, friend of mine, Ross, a follow
Oh yeah.
on
That's
Spotify
right.
for his podcast, Bold Expression BU in parentheses.
Mm-hmm.
Bold expression in parentheses, bold BU. And with that being said, thank you for listening. Add us on social at the Disability Myth
Woo!
on Instagram, and we are technically on Facebook as well. But I'm still working out the kinks. But if you like, go ahead, give us a follow on there. Um, feel free to ask questions, get in contact with us. You never know. A question you might have might be a whole future episode. Anything else you want to add, bro?
I was about to say, like, let's make a Twitter, but then it's not Twitter anymore. It's X.
It's X, yeah.
Nah, I don't know.
I don't know. X is pretty toxic. Maybe we stay away from that.
Sure.
We'll see. Well, tell us what you think in the comments. Let us know. Should we make an X?
It sounds so weird.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go make an X account. Like, you can't tell your parents that because they're gonna think you're like up to like no good.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yep. All right, guys. Peace and love.
Goodbye.
And may the force be with you.
Oh yeah, that was fun.